My mother cried the day she gave me everything. She held my face, kissed my forehead, and told the guests how proud she was. But what nobody saw was the document hidden under the cake table, the one transferring my entire trust fund into her name. And what she didn't know was that every second of that moment was already part of my plan. I learned very early that love in my house was just a performance. My mother wasn't loud. She didn't scream or throw things. No, she was much worse than that. She smiled. She charmed. She convinced people she was the most devoted mother in the world. And behind closed doors, she quietly erased me. My father died when I was 16. Everyone said it was tragic, sudden, unfair. But my mother, she adapted fast. Too fast. Within weeks, she had full control over everything: the house, the businesses, and most importantly, my trust fund, the one my father had built specifically for me. I remember the lawyer explaining it, how it would unlock when I turned 25, how it was protected. Protected. That word stayed with me, because 3 months after the funeral, I noticed something strange. Small withdrawals. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to go unnoticed if you weren't looking carefully. But I was. I didn't confront her. Not then. That would have been emotional, messy, predictable. And I knew better. Because my mother didn't react to emotions. She exploited them. So instead, I became quiet, observant, patient. I started watching everything. Her spending habits, her late-night calls, the way she spoke to lawyers when she thought I wasn't listening. And slowly the truth began to form. She wasn't just using my trust fund. She was draining it, carefully, systematically, like someone watering a plant they intended to uproot. I remember the exact moment I knew for sure. It was a Tuesday. She was in the kitchen, laughing on the phone, talking about a new investment, and she said something that made my stomach turn. It's not like she'll ever understand the paperwork anyway. That's when I stopped being her daughter and started becoming her problem. I didn't cry. Not once. Because crying would have given her something to feed on. Instead, I started building something she could never predict. Control. The first thing I did was disappear. Not physically, emotionally. I stopped reacting to her comments, her little manipulations, her fake affection. I became neutral, and that confused her. Because people like my mother, they need feedback. They need emotion to measure their power. And when I stopped giving it to her, she started slipping. She became careless, talking more openly, trusting her own narrative too much. And that's when I started recording. Not obvious recordings. No. I hid cameras in places no one would ever check. Inside decorative pieces. Inside bookshelves. Even inside a hollow perfume bottle she never used. I didn't rush it. I let it build. Weeks turned into months. Months into a full year. And in that year, I collected everything. Every transaction, every conversation, every lie. But evidence alone wasn't enough, because exposing her privately would only give her room to twist the story. And she was very good at that. I needed something else, something she couldn't control, an audience. That's when the idea came to me. Simple, elegant, irreversible. My birthday. My 25th birthday, the exact day my trust fund was supposed to unlock, the day everyone expected a celebration. So I gave them one, a perfect one. I rented a venue so extravagant it made people whisper. Crystal chandeliers, live orchestra, Imported flowers arranged like art. Everything looked flawless. And my mother, she loved it. I watched her that night, the way her eyes scanned the room, calculating, admiring, absorbing attention. She thought it was her moment too. After all, she believed she had already secured the real prize. What she didn't know was that every single decoration in that room had a purpose. The floral arrangements, cameras, the stage lighting, directional microphones, even the champagne glasses, embedded with tiny audio sensors. Nothing was accidental. Every angle, every sound, every expression captured. But the real trap was something much simpler. Paper. A document, beautifully printed, legally structured, completely fake. A supplementary inheritance agreement, designed to look like an expansion of my father's original will. And inside it, a clause, carefully written, subtle, almost invisible. A clause that required verbal confirmation. Not just a signature, a statement, out loud, in front of witnesses. And I knew exactly how to get her to say it. The night flowed perfectly. Guests laughing, music echoing, cameras silently watching. And then the moment arrived. I stepped onto the stage, holding a glass of champagne, smiling like nothing had ever been wrong. I just want to thank everyone for being here. My voice was soft, steady, and especially my mother, for everything she's done for me. She smiled instantly. Of course she did. This was her favorite part. Recognition. I invited her up. She walked slowly, confidently, like she owned the room. And for a moment, I almost believed it too. I handed her the document, told her it was a final blessing from my father's estate, something meant to honor both of us. Her fingers trembled slightly, not from fear, from greed. She scanned the pages quickly, barely reading, just searching for confirmation. Money, control, security. And then she looked at me, smiling. Do you want me to say something? I nodded. The room went quiet. She raised her glass and began speaking. I'm so proud of my daughter and everything she's achieved. Her voice was smooth, practiced. I've always protected her future, managed her inheritance responsibly. And then, exactly where I needed her, she said it. I made certain decisions, including reallocating funds, because I knew what was best. The room shifted, subtle, but I felt it. And then she added the final piece, without hesitation, without realizing. Yes, I transferred portions of her trust into accounts under my control, but only because I believed it was necessary. Silence. Heavy. Thick. And in that silence, I smiled, because she had just confessed, not to me, not privately, but to everyone. But what happened next was something even I didn't expect, because just as I thought the trap was complete, one of the screens behind us lit up, and it wasn't part of my plan. A video started playing. Old footage. My father, looking directly into the camera. And suddenly, everything changed. The screen wasn't supposed to turn on. That was the first thing my brain registered. Not the image, not the voice. Just that one detail. This wasn't mine. My mother froze beside me. Her fingers tightened around the glass. Her smile cracked just slightly, and the room leaned forward. My father's face filled the screen. Older, calmer, recorded months before he died. I don't know when you'll see this, His voice steady, familiar. But if you are, it means something went wrong. I didn't move, not a single muscle, because this wasn't just unexpected, it was dangerous. My plan was precise, controlled, every variable accounted for. But this was something else, something hidden, buried deeper than anything I had uncovered. I created the trust fund for one reason. His eyes shifted like he was choosing his words carefully. To protect my daughter from everyone. A pause, including her mother. The air in the room changed instantly. Not loud, not dramatic, just heavy, like truth had weight, and it just dropped on everyone at once. I felt her next to me, my mother, completely still now, not acting, not smiling, just listening. I know how she operates. His voice softened, almost disappointed. She doesn't destroy things directly. She absorbs them quietly until there's nothing left. Someone in the crowd shifted. A chair scraped faintly, but no one spoke. So, I built something stronger than a lock. My heartbeat slowed. That sentence, that wasn't about protection anymore. That was about strategy. There's a secondary condition attached to the trust. My fingers tightened around the glass, just enough to feel it, because now I understood. It only activates if misuse is proven publicly. A ripple went through the room, not loud, but undeniable. And if that happens, he looked straight into the camera, straight through time, straight at me. Every asset, every transfer, every unauthorized movement. A pause. Reverses. Silence. The kind of silence that doesn't just sit in a room, it suffocates it. I turned my head slowly, very slowly, and looked at her. My mother. For the first time in my life, she looked small, not physically, but structurally. Like something inside her had just collapsed. Her lips parted slightly, but nothing came out. No excuse, no defense, no manipulation, because there was nothing left to control. And then the final line played. If you're watching this, it means she exposed herself. The video ended, and just like that, the illusion shattered. But here's the part nobody tells you about moments like this. They don't explode. They settle. The room didn't erupt into chaos. No shouting. No accusations. Just quiet. Deep, observing quiet. Because everyone had just witnessed something irreversible. I stepped forward. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just deliberate. Told you it was a birthday gift. My voice was calm, too calm. And then I turned, not to her, but to the room. I didn't expose her, a small pause. I just gave her the stage. A few people exchanged looks, the kind that carry understanding without words. And then I looked back at her. Her eyes were different now. No shine. No calculation. Just realization. You built your entire life on control. I said it softly. But control needs silence. Another pause. And tonight you talked. Her grip on the glass broke slightly. A faint crack. Still no reaction from her. Because she knew. This wasn't a moment she could recover from. Not socially. Not legally. Not psychologically. But I wasn't finished. Because this was never just about exposing her. It was about ending something. Completely. I reached into my bag, slow, intentional, and pulled out the real document. The one that mattered. Not fake. Not staged. Real. I placed it on the table in front of her. You missed one detail, I said quietly. Her eyes dropped to the paper, and for the first time, fear appeared. Real fear. Because printed across the top, in bold, Emergency Asset Reversal Authorization. Her hands didn't move. She didn't even try to touch it, because she didn't need to. She already understood. Everything she had taken, everything she had quietly transferred, everything she thought was secured, was gone. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. Gone. The system had already triggered. The moment she spoke, the moment she confirmed. And now, there was nothing left for her to hold on to. But then, something unexpected happened. She smiled. Not wide, not confident. Just a small, slow, unsettling smile. And she finally spoke. You really think, her voice was quiet, controlled, that I didn't prepare for this? My eyes didn't move, because that wasn't denial. That was something else. Something colder. Something deeper. And suddenly, for the first time that night, I realized something terrifying. I hadn't been the only one planning. And just like that, the game wasn't over. It had just changed. Her smile didn't fade. That was the first thing that felt wrong. Not the words, not the tone, the smile. Because it wasn't panic. It wasn't desperation. It was recognition. Like she had just been waiting for this exact moment to arrive. You really think, she looked down at the document again, then back at me, that I didn't prepare for this? The room shifted again. Not loudly, but enough. People were no longer just watching her. They were watching me too. Good. Let them. Because control isn't about stopping chaos. It's about deciding who owns it. I didn't respond immediately. Silence is uncomfortable, and I needed that discomfort to grow, to stretch across the room, to sit on every shoulder, to make every person lean forward just a little more. Then I smiled. Softly. I was hoping you'd say that. A flicker, barely visible, but I caught it. That wasn't confidence anymore. That was calculation adjusting. She straightened slightly, rebuilding posture, rebuilding control. You think one speech, one video. She gestured lightly toward the screen. Undoes everything I've built. Her voice was steadier now, stronger. She was stepping back into herself. I've already moved things months ago. She took a step closer to me, far beyond anything your little system can touch. Murmurs, soft, but spreading. She wasn't denying. She was reframing. Classic. And if I had rushed this, if I had only prepared for one version of her, she might have won that moment. But I didn't rush. I never rush. I tilted my head slightly, watching her, not interrupting, letting her continue building her own narrative. Because the more she spoke, the more she revealed. You were always smart, she said it almost gently, but you never understood scale. Scale. Interesting word. Because she thought this was about money, about accounts, about movement. She still didn't understand what I actually took from her. And that was the real mistake. I stepped forward, just enough to close the space between us. Not aggressive, not confrontational, just present. You're right, I said quietly. Her eyes sharpened. I didn't understand scale. Pause. So I expanded it. Confusion, brief, but real. Then I turned, not to her, but to the room. To everyone here tonight, my voice carried now, clear, measured. I want you to understand something very simple. I gestured lightly toward the screens. This was never about recovering money. A few people leaned in, phones subtly lifting, recording. It was about documenting behavior. Her breathing shifted, just slightly, because now she was starting to feel it. The shift. I nodded once, toward the far side of the room, and that's when the second screen lit up. Not my father this time. Data, transactions, dates, account numbers, transfers, patterns. But not just hers. Names appeared. Familiar names. Guests, investors, friends, people in that very room. A ripple turned into a wave. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about her. It was bigger. Much bigger. I spent a year watching, I said calmly. Not just you. My eyes moved across the crowd. But everyone who benefited from you. A man near the front shifted uncomfortably. Another looked down at his phone. And I noticed something. I let the silence stretch again. Just enough. You weren't hiding alone. Now the tension snapped. Whispers. Sharp this time. Because secrets are only safe until someone connects them. My mother's voice cut through it. Low. Controlled. You're bluffing. I turned back to her. Slowly. No. Soft. Certain. I'm finishing what you started. Her eyes moved quickly across the screens. Calculating. Recalculating. Because now she saw it. This wasn't just exposure. This was structure. Everything she had built, every hidden connection, every quiet alliance, mapped, visible, traceable. You said I didn't understand scale. I stepped closer again. But scale isn't about how much you move. Pause. It's about how much collapses when you stop. And that's when it happened. The third trigger. Phones began buzzing. Not one, not two, dozens. Around the room. People checking messages, emails, notifications, faces changing. Because while they were standing here, watching her, something had already been sent. Evidence. Complete. Time-stamped. Verified. To legal teams. To auditors. To people who didn't care about charm, or stories, or excuses. And now, there was no controlling it. Her composure broke. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just a fracture. She stepped toward me. What did you do? And for the first time, it wasn't a performance. It was a question. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Not as my mother, but as a system, finally failing. I didn't destroy you, I said quietly. I removed the silence that was protecting you. Her hand trembled, just slightly, because she understood. Silence was her power, and now it was gone. The room wasn't hers anymore. The narrative wasn't hers. The control wasn't hers. And yet, even then, even in that moment, she did something I should have expected. She laughed. Soft, low, almost impressed. And then she leaned in, close enough that only I could hear. You still don't see it. A whisper, cold. Precise. There's one thing. Pause. You didn't account for. My heartbeat didn't change. My expression didn't move. But something inside me shifted because I knew that tone. That wasn't a bluff. That was certainty. And as she stepped back, composure returning, eyes steady again, I realized something I hadn't felt all night. Uncertainty. And just like that, the game shifted one more time. Her whisper stayed in the air. You didn't account for it. Most people would panic there. They'd rush, defend, try to regain control. But I didn't move, because the moment you react, you admit uncertainty, and I refused to give her that. Instead, I stepped back, not away from her, but into stillness. Then say it. My voice was quiet, steady. If you still have control, prove it. The room held its breath, because now, this wasn't just a reveal anymore. It was a final test. She watched me, longer this time, not scanning, not calculating, studying. And slowly, that same smile returned. You always needed closure, she said softly. I never did. Then she reached for her phone. That small movement shifted everything. Because control, in moments like this, comes from what you can still trigger. She unlocked it, typed something, quick, deliberate, and then she turned the screen toward me. A single message. Done. No context, no explanation. Just that word. And for a split second, something cold slid through my chest. Because I didn't know what she had just activated. But I didn't let it show. Instead, I smiled. Not to match hers, but to end it. You're right, I said quietly. I didn't account for one thing. Her eyes sharpened. I stepped closer, slow, measured. I didn't account for how predictable you are. A flicker. And this time, it wasn't small, because she knew that sentence wasn't reaction. It was confirmation. I turned toward the main screen again and nodded. For a second, nothing happened. Then, a final file appeared. Not financial, not transactional, personal. Audio logs. Dozens of them. Private calls, late-night conversations, unfiltered, unperformed. Her voice, clear, undeniable. And then one played. I don't care what happens to her. Her voice echoed softly through the room. As long as the money stays where I need it. No defense, no framing, no justification. Just truth. The kind you can't reshape. Her hand dropped slightly, because now there was nothing left to reinterpret, no narrative to twist, no audience to win back. Only exposure, complete, permanent. You moved things, I said quietly. I know. Another pause. So I let you. Her eyes snapped to mine. Confusion. Real this time. Every account you touched. I continued. I mirrored. The room shifted again. But this time, it wasn't curiosity. It was realization. Every transfer you made, I stepped closer. I tracked. Her breathing changed. Every person you trusted, my eyes moved across the room again. I documented. Silence. Deep. Heavy. Because now, they understood. This wasn't revenge. This was reconstruction. She didn't just lose control tonight. She lost the entire system she built. And then I leaned in slightly. Not enough for anyone else to hear. But the one thing I didn't account for, I whispered back, was how easy you'd make it. She froze. And just like that, it ended. No explosion. No dramatic collapse. Just stillness. The kind that comes when something finally breaks beyond repair. Security moved in quietly, not aggressively, just present. Not to take her away, but to stand between her and what she used to control. Because power doesn't disappear loudly. It fades. And that's what happened to her, right there, in front of everyone. She didn't scream, didn't argue, didn't even look at me again, because she understood something most people never do. When the story is no longer yours, there's nothing left to say. I stayed on that stage a little longer. Not for them, not for her, for myself, because for years I had lived inside her silence. And now I was standing in my own, uncontrolled, unowned, unreachable. I looked out at the room one last time. Phones still raised, eyes still fixed. But they weren't looking at her anymore. They were looking at me. And for the first time, it didn't feel like pressure. It felt like space. I set the glass down and walked away. No speech, no closure, because some endings don't need to be explained. They just need to happen. And that night, everything did.